My name is Katie Lentini. I am the Director of Channels here at FutureCom. I want to thank everyone for joining today's presentation hosted by FutureCom. And I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to our very first presenter, which is Justin Powell.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. My name is Justin Powell. I'm a senior cybersecurity engineer here at FutureCom, focused on pre-sales. I do want to take a second for those who are new to introduce a little bit about FutureCom in case you don't know. We were established in 1991, so we've been around in this space for quite a long time. We're headquartered in Grapevine, Texas, which is in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, just actually by the airport. And we focus on what we call the 3 Cs. It's cybersecurity, consulting, and cloud. And if you've worked with us or taken a meeting with us, you've seen this diagram before. Normally it's printed out. And I call it our cheat sheet because it's the equivalent of our sales presentation, because what this diagram shows are the various areas where we provide products, services, solutions. And I want to touch on something I don't think I've really touched on it that much in other webinars. I don't use the term reseller. It's not a term that's in my vocabulary because I don't think there's a lot of value to reselling things. When I talk about what we do, I talk about us being a solution provider. And what I mean by that is that we're not just trying to sell you a box. We're not just trying to sell you some sort of technology. What we want to do with our customers is to understand their business, understand their needs, and come up with solutions that meet those needs. And what I mean by that term solution is it's some combination of technology, services, as well as potentially consulting, maybe managed services, and I'll talk about those here in a minute. But it's the combination of those things that deliver the results that our customers are looking for. That's what we're focused on. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to do this very quickly. I think I only have four slides here. I've cut it down, so we'll keep it short. We live in a world that is increasingly complex from a technical perspective. As we started this webinar series, we were all getting used to, quote, working from home. And now I don't even think about it. It's just what I do. It's the new normal, right, in our daily lives. But from an IT perspective, I work with customers every day who are still trying to figure out, okay, how do I secure this new weird hybrid environment where all of my users are dispersed? They're on a crazy number of devices. Data can live in a data center or in the cloud or even in somebody's, PC on their desk at home. How do we deal with that from a security perspective, from a performance perspective, from a monitoring perspective? And we're consistently having those conversations with our customers because, of course, they're dealing with that complexity because we do live in that complex world. But you add to that this second idea that there's definitely a labor shortage. And I'd say in general, there's an IT labor shortage, but it's especially acute in the cybersecurity side of businesses in the U.S. 62% of U.S. organizations say they're understaffed. It takes some number of months to fill cybersecurity positions. And oftentimes what we're finding is that they're either never filled or they have to be modified. The position request has to be modified to fit the available labor, right? Somebody might not have the skill set you're looking for. Maybe you have to develop that internally or work with a partner such as FutureCom to acquire that skill set. Not to be the bearer of bad news, but it doesn't look like it's going to get better anytime soon. There's a projection that there will be about 2 million people short from a cybersecurity perspective by 2022. And that number 2022 seemed way far in the future. And when I originally put this presentation together, now it seems much, much closer. So, we're not going the right direction. So ultimately what that gives us this fundamental challenge, right? There's increasing complexity, there's resource constraints, and then as with any business, there's a time imperative. You have to get things done, on an annual basis, quarterly basis, before your next report to Wall Street, whatever it is. There's definitely a time imperative. So what IT folks have to sign up for is this idea that they've got to resolve more risk, they've got to do it faster, and they've got to do it with fewer resources. Not probably the best job description in the world. There's not a ton of people that are signing up saying, hey, that sounds great. I'd love to do that. And so that's where we come in, or that's where we try to help our customers. And I'll just build that out and talk about this real quick. Because again, we're not just trying to sell you a widget. We're not trying to sell you a box. What we want to do is understand you, understand your needs, understand your business, and then knowing what we know about what we're good at, figure out, hey, are there ways that we can help you, whether it's design or architecture at a high level, or maybe it's a regulatory compliance need, best practice, and I'm not going to read all these to you, but you get the idea. This is just a very brief summary of some of the services that we offer. And so we'd love to engage with you on those. In addition, maybe you have some ongoing quote services needs where you say, hey, I don't want to manage my firewalls, or I don't want to take the time to manage endpoint security. Those are types of solutions that we can provide a fully managed service package for you. So thank you guys for taking the time today. I really appreciate you joining us this afternoon.
Well, thank you, Justin. This is David Tumlin. I'm the Senior Solutions Architect here at FutureCom. So maintaining a security operation on a day-to-day basis is complicated. You're charged with balancing the operational needs for your organization while keeping your assets secure. Because you have limited resources, both personnel and tool sets, it's hard to be aware of the threats you're facing. Do you know everything that goes through your firewall, or just what's logged by the firewall? Do you know if insiders are stealing your proprietary data? Are there things happening on your network that you're unaware of? How can you tell if your security controls are effective? And how do you decide what type of tool you need to fill your security gaps? So most firewalls have multiple methods of securing traffic. It's rare that an organization deploys all the controls on the firewalls due to limited resources, both technical and personnel. You want to know if you have the correct ones deployed and if they're deployed effectively. So robust network perimeter protections only go so far. Insider threats and compromised devices pose a threat from internal networks that will not necessarily be seen by your perimeter devices. You know what your security devices are supposed to do, but what are they actually doing? Verifying your controls are effective could help you sleep better at night. FutureCom offers a security assessment that discovers what security threats are visible at a point in time in your network. We examine the traffic for anomalies, including potential data exfiltration, command and control traffic, and other indications of compromise. We can also help discover various misconfigurations of network and security equipment, misuse of organization resources, as well as confirm the need for specific types of security controls. We do this by attaching a passive device on a tap or span port so that it doesn't affect the flow of your production traffic. The tool gathers information on the network that is passing through the network at a specific point behind the existing firewall to determine if the firewall is adequately securing the network, or between sections of the network to assess for insider traffic. The tool is left on your network for a week or so to gather data, and then we retrieve the appliance and run a comprehensive report that shows what the current security controls are missing. All of this is reviewed in person with you, and recommendations are given for improving your organization's security posture. So not all of your visibility problems are going to be technical. Some are procedural. All organizations deal with internal and external requirements and regulations. We know that regulations don't wait because you don't have time to adhere to them, and failing a compliance audit is embarrassing and sometimes expensive. How do you guarantee policy and regulatory compliance without neglecting operational requirements? How do you prepare for upcoming regulatory and policy audits? How do you verify your security posture without having shortcomings exposed in an official audit? So FutureCom offers gap analysis to compare your security controls against your published policy, against a regulation or a set of regulations, or against a standard that your organization has chosen to follow. We can determine the gaps between your current security posture and what you require. Whether the regulations are PCI, CJIS, HIPAA, Sarbanes-Oxley, NERC, or any number of other cybersecurity related regulations, FutureCom can confirm your organization's adherence to the standards and deliver a report that is detailed, well-informed, and discreet. FutureCom can, in addition to verifying compliance with these regulations, advise on risks to maintaining compliance and help justify compensating controls for audit later. Depending on your requirements, the FutureCom can review policies and configurations, interview relevant parties, and in some cases perform technical investigations and assessments. Some of the regulations that we work with as they relate to cybersecurity: PCI, Sarbanes-Oxley, CJIS, HIPAA, NERC, and cybersecurity standards we often work with are FFIEC, ISO 27002, NIST, SANS Institute, and of course CIS controls. If you're interested in learning more about security assessments or gap analysis offerings, contact your FutureCom account manager or email customercare@fcltd.net. I'm going to hand this back to Justin Powell again, and he's going to talk about the next segment about our offering, Copilot offering.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it. So I want to talk to you about our Copilot services. This is a relatively new service for us here at FutureCom within the last year or so, give or take. And it's this idea that sometimes what we found is that our customers may need, they may want to own a product and run the product and be the administrator of the product, but they may need a little bit of help along the way. It's targeted in particular for something that maybe is a new solution to the environment where you might need assistance or advisement services from experts that have done it before. It includes things like regular policy configuration reviews as well as manual software update. And then big picture, the goal of this service is to help our clients maintain and really learn about their new solution in the first year that they have the product and potentially for years after that. And we do it with the assistance of FutureCom engineers who are skilled with that particular product. You know, we like to call it our co-managed assistance program. And as I mentioned, you would maintain, this isn't a managed service, and I'll explain the difference when we get towards the end. It's not a fully managed service. You still maintain full administrative control of the solution. In other words, you act as the pilot. You're managing the solution on a daily basis, just as you would with any solution. And then you would work with us, and we would work as your sort of co-pilot, providing guidance or assistance when it's needed. And the whole idea is to reduce the risk in the first year of you having to administer an unfamiliar solution. And so there's a couple reasons that we think this is important, or a couple, let me say it this way. There's about 3 reasons why we created this service. And first, it's for customers that are making a first-time purchase. You know, as you know, anytime there's something new in the environment, it's oftentimes difficult to become the administrator of that product if you've never touched it or seen it or administered it before. And then oftentimes you'll find that training is never comprehensive, or in my experience, in some cases, training is non-existent. You know, some organizations just don't invest in the technical training that's required, yet they still expect you as an IT professional to be able to manage and administer a product. And then often, you know, when we look at some of these products, take an F5 or you know, what I would call a firewall, but it's really a security suite now. These are increasingly complex products. It's not a single point product. Oftentimes they're full platforms, and it may take years of experience to really understand how to manage the whole thing. And then often, to make matters worse, these complex products are deployed in environments that are very sensitive to outages. And so we recognize that our customers often struggled with that. In addition, we found that oftentimes some of our customers lacked skill set. And I don't mean that negatively in the sense that you didn't know how to do something. More often than not, it's that you lost someone that was a key skill set on your team. So your best Palo Alto engineer, you know, moves and you lose that skill set, or your best F5 engineer goes to a competitor or something like that. Or, you know, you're just in an environment where you're wearing too many hats. And I like to say, you know, when you're the subject matter expert on 15 things, that takes a lot of spinning plates to keep keep everything going, and oftentimes that's difficult to do, obviously. And as you guys know, companies are sometimes not big on training their staff, and let me say that very clearly. It's not that they don't want you to have training. It's that they don't want to pay for the training that you probably need to be the expert that you need to be as you administer these 15 things. And so there's a gap there, right, that we can help fill. And then last but not least, oftentimes what we find is that most of our customers have pretty good skill sets, but they might be rusty, right? And what I mean by that is I've already said F5, so I'll pick on that. Maybe F5, but you got busy with other things and you haven't touched it in 6 months, and you need to go back and do a major upgrade and change policies. Sometimes we all know as engineers, we sort of get our way through that and we're maybe not comfortable, but the idea here would be to give you that phone a friend, so to speak, that can help you with those difficult things, because maybe you haven't done routine maintenance, or maybe you haven't reviewed outdated policies, or maybe you are thinking of changes or redesign in the architecture. Those are the types of scenarios where we really think Copilot can be helpful. And I'm going to run through 2 very quick stories. I'm not going to read this to you, but we had a customer that had an F5 that was doing an F5 upgrade. They upgraded it. It broke everything. The applications that we were relying on, it didn't work. They worked with product support. So in this case, not us, but F5 product support. They rolled it back to a stable release, but then they couldn't figure out how to upgrade it. They worked with us. We came in and were able to help them upgrade because we knew what the problem was with this new version. We were able to do it in 15 minutes because we had done it many, many, many times before with other customers. Another example is we had a customer that had intermittent outages with a security platform that I'm not going to name here. And they kept going back and forth with the product support of that manufacturer, and support couldn't gather enough information to understand what the problem was. So we came in alongside with our customers, worked to gather information, whether it was logs or packet captures and so forth. And we were able to put that together to get to the manufacturer support so that they could understand what the cause of the issue was and ultimately fix a patch for that bug. The program includes annual appliance software updates. So I call it one major upgrade per year, which generally is what we're looking at. So one, not a dot upgrade, but a major upgrade generally, but you can use it however you want. Quarterly or semi-annual policy reviews, and based on what your requirements are, and then these on-demand services. And this is this idea that you can reach out to us and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, how should I do it? Or, hey, I need to make this change, but I haven't done it in 18 months. Can you remind me how to do it? We're not doing the work for you. You're still the pilot. We're just coming alongside you saying, hey, here are the 2 different ways to do it, and we recommend A because of your environment or whatever it is, whatever the technical issue is in particular. So that's Copilot services. We're excited about it. We see a big need for it in the marketplace. If you'd like to learn more, please reach out to your FutureCom account manager, or you'll see these emails at the end. You can reach out to customer care at fcltd.net. And now I believe I am handing it to Kyle, who is one of our FutureCom engineers.
Thank you, Justin. My name is Kyle Chavez. Like Justin said, I'm a security engineer here at FutureCom. And one of my roles is to support our managed endpoint protection service. So I want to go ahead and jump right into this. I promise my presentation won't be full of bullet points or scrolling text. So let's just get started. So advance my slide. All right. So as IT professionals, we all have responsibilities in some form or fashion for endpoints. And we all have some level of protection in place today. But as time goes on, business and technology progress and change, and unfortunately, so do the threats. Today's threat landscape is more sophisticated than ever before. Just like yesterday, it was more sophisticated than the day before. That continues to change and progress, and we have to deal with that. I think this is something we all probably know, and none of us are surprised by this, but we do need to address it. So as threat actors begin to rely more on novel techniques to get past our traditional layers of security, this includes them doing things like using living off the land attacks, as well as we're seeing an increased reliance on custom one-time use malware. So we need to make sure that our environments are prepared to defend against threats like these. So I want to ask you, how confident are you that your endpoints, both those on-premise and off-premise, how confident are you that they could defend against a modern malware infection? So if that infection or outbreak was to happen today within your organization, would it cause you to panic? And then after you finish cleaning that up and you had to give your after action report to leadership and give a summary of what happened, would you be standing proudly, or would you find yourself explaining why things were not your team's fault? So I want you to consider how you answered those questions, whether you answered those with a positive attitude or a negative one. And I want to ask you, based on those answers, was it because you have a high level of trust in your endpoint solution? If so, is that trust warranted? Is it because you know that you're running the newest or maybe not so new version of your endpoint product? Perhaps it's related to the specific technologies that you have enabled and running on the endpoints. Maybe things like sophisticated scan engines, behavioral monitoring, machine learning. Or it may not be the product at all. It might be the skill and the time that your team is able to devote on a daily basis to managing and upkeeping your endpoint protection platform. Or it could be the lack thereof of that time for managing the endpoint protection. As we all know, there's only so much time in a given day. So having considered the why, is your original answer to the first question the same? Are you confident in defending against a modern malware attack if it was to hit your organization today? So if you're noticing any gaps or any potential problems as you're thinking through these questions and thinking through what your environment looks like, I don't want you to be alarmed. The good news is FutureCom does have a solution that's designed to meet these specific challenges that organizations like yours face. It's a solution that we both trust and use internally here at FutureCom. And the solution is called our Managed Endpoint Protection Service. What this is a full-featured and a fully managed service built around endpoint protection. So this service is built off of trusted technology, custom policies, and regular review. Management is cloud-based. So what this means is new features, new protections, they're released in months, not years. Your endpoints are protected and, more importantly, visible regardless of where they are, whether that be on or off your corporate network. We provide security experts to manage your policies and ensure your protection strategy is up to date, and that strategy is a worthy opponent against today's latest threats. Our team not only ensures that you're using the newest protections, but more importantly, that you're using those protections properly. Our configuration will provide your endpoints with the right protection at the right time. This includes patterns, machine learning, behavioral monitoring, application control. We do it all. So our service, in a nutshell, it includes everything that you need to protect your endpoints. So this means it includes the product, the agents, the licensing to run those protections, as well as, and in my opinion, most importantly, the expertise to configure and maintain those policies against an ever-evolving cyber attack workflow. Our service can protect your Windows desktops, your Windows servers, as well as your Mac OS X endpoints. So it's easy to get started. With the FutureCom Managed Endpoint Protection Service, you have a trusted partner by your side every step of the way. So let us do the heavy lifting and partner with FutureCom to help you take your endpoint security to the next level. So I encourage you to talk with your FutureCom account manager today to talk about getting a deeper look at this service. I just gave a brief overview of what this can do. We can talk specifics for your organization, maybe even jump into a demo to let you see how we can help you improve your organization's endpoint security posture. With that, I want to say thank you, and I'd like to introduce the next segment. We're going to be taking a break from PowerPoint, so please enjoy this short video on our cloud security service.
Is your company currently using or planning to migrate to Office 365? How about G Suite, Box, or Dropbox? Cloud solutions present some unique security challenges. They are also accessed by more types of devices like cell phones or home computers, rather than just a company-owned computer. For the end user, this typically means it makes their life easier, but for IT departments, it can present a bigger challenge in determining how to secure it all. There are multiple cyber threats that you need to be sure you're protected from. For instance, did you know that email attacks are on the rise? A recent report showed that 67% of organizations reported increases in impersonation fraud. 88% saw email-based spoofing, and 26% had year-over-year increases in ransomware. Business email compromise continues to increase in popularity based on the success of those types of attacks. As well, Office 365 administrator credentials are highly targeted today, since they can provide the proverbial keys to the kingdom when it comes to corporate data. The use of cloud storage apps such as SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams places sensitive, confidential data and intellectual property in the cloud, rather than on privately controlled corporate data centers. The business world is rapidly shifting to the cloud for daily operations, and securing data in the cloud can be a daunting task if you aren't prepared. Many companies put their trust in the built-in security controls that come with their cloud SaaS solutions. But those solutions don't offer the protections businesses need to keep their data secure in the cloud. For example, Office 365 E3 licensing only filters known threats, which represents a mere 5% of all malware. In fact, a 2019 study showed that over 12.7 million high-risk threats weren't caught by Office 365 or G Suite. And these numbers include Microsoft's advanced threat protection that comes with E5 licensing. And what about data already stored in the cloud? Once you finally decide to add a security solution, how do you know when restricted data is uploaded to the cloud? How is sensitive or disallowed data removed from the cloud? And how do you know that the files there are safe? Many solutions start tracking data only after they've been implemented. So what can be done to provide security and peace of mind for email and cloud applications? Enter FutureCom's Managed Cloud Application Security, powered by Trend Micro. Our solution provides security protections for Office 365, OneDrive, SharePoint, Dropbox, Box, and G Suite, including things like spam, phishing, and BEC detection, email quarantine and subject tagging, web reputation checks of URLs in emails, malware scanning and sandboxing of suspicious files, file blocking by type, name, and extension, and even data loss prevention controls. It also protects inter-office communications, such as internal company email and sharing of cloud files. And perhaps the best news of all is that it doesn't burden your staff with more work, because the entire solution is managed by FutureCom's cybersecurity experts. From provisioning the service, to creating policies, to monitoring, alerting, and reporting, we do it all. Our experienced engineers tailor the solution to meet your company's needs with tiered detection thresholds, customizable response actions, control over quarantined file access, department-specific policies, and company-specific tuning and whitelisting to avoid false positives. Still not sure you truly need more security for your cloud applications? We provide a free, no-obligation cloud threat assessment to help you identify if your current protections are sufficient, if threats exist in cloud mailboxes or shared folders, if DLP violating information has been uploaded to the cloud, even if specific types of threats are routinely being missed by existing safeguards. The assessment can be completed in 1 week, and we will provide a snapshot of your security posture in the form of a detailed report, so you can see just how well you're protected against cloud application security threats. And it's not intrusive at all. We utilize existing cloud provider API integrations and don't make any changes to configurations. No rerouting of email and no blocking of any kind. To sign up for your free cloud threat assessment, contact your FutureCom account manager or email customercare@fcltd.net. All right. So with that, I'm going to toss it over to Justin. Again, he is going to talk to you about another one of our services that we call our wireless site survey. Justin, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. And thanks everybody for hanging in there. It's a couple more, so I know we're going back and forth here, but hopefully these are helpful to you. I'm just going to spend a couple minutes here talking about our wireless site survey capability. So you've probably heard of this before. It's been around for quite a while, but the whole idea is to survey the wireless or radio frequency landscape for coverage, or maybe potentially to survey an existing wireless infrastructure for problems, and then to design the best network we can. And I'm not going to read the goal to you because I just said what it is, but really, if I could say it succinctly, it's basically us working with you to understand what applications are running on your wireless network, where they need to run, and what quality of service needs to be maintained. And then we design a wireless RF solution that meets those goals. So there's really two reasons in particular that you would that would require a wireless site survey. And this one is one that every person that has been in IT for more than a year has dealt with, right? Wi-Fi quote unquote issues, right? Maybe that's spotty service or missing service, or even worse, intermittent connectivity. So, hey, this worked great on Tuesday, but it doesn't work today. Or maybe the favorite quote, slow surf, or quote, my favorite line, the internet is slow. That's a fun one. Or maybe it is Wi-Fi authentication problems, which are a little more complex, and that would be maybe a particular application works on your wired network, but then it doesn't consistently work on your wireless network, and maybe there's an authentication issue there, or maybe other network issues, VLAN issues, something like that. But we can work with you on that as part of the wireless site survey. And then the other real reason is if you want to expand your Wi-Fi coverage. Maybe you're adding new office space because the company on the floor above you moved out and you guys are taking over the space, or maybe you lack coverage in a particular area because that area used to be the break room and now it's offices, or now it's a conference room, something like that. And then another example, this is a real life example that I did a few months ago. Well, technically it's before the pandemic, so I don't know how many months ago that was. Let's say 6, because every day is the same now. And this was a company that wanted to add coverage to these new outdoor seating areas that they had put in place because employees started using those areas in the morning and at lunch for meetings. They thought they would just be eating areas, but people wanted to eat and have meetings out there, so we had to extend wireless coverage to that outdoor area. Or maybe you need to expand coverage because you have too many people in a concentrated area, so that would be an issue for a wireless site survey. There's 2 types. I'm not going to read this slide to you because I know you'll fall asleep if you're not already. But it's predictive and active. And really all I want to say is that there are 2 different site surveys we can do for you. A predictive survey would be one where either the building doesn't exist, or you don't have access to the building, or you don't have infrastructure in the building. And it's one that's predictive based on software and floor plans. So you give us floor plans and we understand the structure, and then using software, we can predict the best place for access points based on your requirements and your needs. And the other is an active site survey, and this would be carried out within an existing wireless environment, and that's either to maybe discover some issues that we talked about, or maybe to cover some areas that aren't covered, something like this. And that's a physical on-site visit with an engineer walking the entire facility. 2 quick success stories that I'll share with you. We had a very large pharmaceutical customer that came to us. They were having incredibly poor wireless performance in one particular important part of their building. And so they had us out to do an active survey. And what we found is that their problem was that they had too many access points. And this is one of the unusual things about wireless. They were getting complaints that the performance was poor. So what did they do? They added more access points, and they added more access points. Every time they got a complaint, they added more. But the way wireless works is those devices were interfering with one another within the channel frequencies that were allowed. And so every time they added a new access point, they actually made the performance worse. So based on the recommendations, which were to remove a certain number of the access points, the performance increased dramatically. Another example is a large electric power company. They were having recurrent problems, but they had a particular requirement for voice over Wi-Fi as well as telepresence or really video over Wi-Fi. And they were having a spotty experience, and they couldn't quite figure out why. They had us take a look at the configuration as well as wireless placement, everything else. And what we found is that they had hard-coded some of their access points to certain frequencies, and some things had changed in the environment without getting too technical. And so over time, the performance of their wireless network had degraded. We made some recommendations on how to manage the frequencies more efficiently, and it fixed the issue right away. So the reason I throw this out there is I love doing wireless site surveys. I'm a wireless engineer at heart as well as a cybersecurity engineer. And the difference is our team has done this all over the place, right? Different buildings, different problems, different infrastructure. And we've done it in all sorts of environments, whether it's office buildings or warehouses, or I've done a big outdoor wireless infrastructure on a resort beach on a tropical island. It was wonderful. Hospitals, restaurants, all that. We've seen it, so we can help you out if you have wireless issues. That's something that we don't tend to actively talk about a lot, but we have a lot of experience with it. So if that's something that you're interested in, if you're having problems with that, if you want more information, as we've said before, reach out to your FutureCom account manager, or you can email customercare@fcltd.net. And I believe I'm handing it back to David here, and we're almost done.
Thanks, Justin. We're going to try to get this one right. What we talk about our health checks. Our health checks leverage the knowledge and experience of our subject matter experts to verify the product configurations with your environment. We'll look at the configuration to determine if it adheres to vendor best practices in your organization. We use tools, both general and vendor specific, to perform these tasks. We also leverage the expertise of our engineers to add more context to the findings and to assist in determining priorities and remediation steps. So, do you need a health check? Are you experiencing vague, indeterminate problems with the product? Have you had multiple administrators working on the product for a year or more? And do you just want a second set of eyes confirming your work? So quite often, a change one of your staffs makes that will work for the task you're trying to accomplish is not the optimal way of configuring the product. Sometimes this change will cause side effects of instability, performance degradation, and suboptimal behavior. What was originally configured when the product was deployed might not be the best today. Architecture changes, company direction changes, personnel changes, any number of things can make previous configuration less effective. Also, rarely does a single administrator perform all the configuration on a product during its entire lifespan. Because every admin can have a different vision of the best way to set something up, a product may have things configured on it that alone are correct, but together are incompatible. Most of your IT departments, especially security, are understaffed. Therefore, it's difficult to have someone to audit the configurations. Even if your admin has time to audit, it's always difficult to check your own work. So for the health check, we create a report of our findings that will give specifics, I can't talk now, specifics of any issues found, and will give additional context that we gathered in the conversations with your team. So we will do this for F5, Infoblox, Palo Alto, Checkpoint, with Fortinet, specifically the FortiGate, the FortiManager, and the FortiAnalyzer product, Trend Micro's Deep Security, Tipping Point, Apex One, Cisco, routing, switching, and ASA. We plan to expand as time goes on. Right now, as we expand our expertise in new products, we'll add them to the list. So included in the health checks of our firewalls, but also available as a standalone service, is our firewall policy assessment. The firewall policy assessment identifies security issues and inefficiencies within your firewall rule base. We'll also validate configuration best practices for the platform, including checking the firewall OS for any known bugs. Here's a list of all the products we can perform a firewall policy assessment for. I am not about to start reading all of them, but you can see there's a bunch. So, who needs this? Anyone required by regulation or an internal security policy. So, we have industry standards, organizational standards, and internal audit may require an assessment from a third party to meet specific regulatory compliance, such as PCI, GLBA, SOX, NERC, etc. Or with organizations with a more mature security program, it's sometimes written into the company's security policy. Turnover of personnel. If a company loses their firewall administrator and there's no backup admin, a new person taking over can sometimes be overwhelmed. Also, the security world, as I said earlier, is full of differing opinions as to how to best design a firewall policy. A turnover in staff is the ideal time to do a firewall assessment to ensure that the new administrator has a good starting point. It can also help that person justify to management making changes they feel are necessary. And limited internal resources. Finding engineers with good security background and a knowledge of best practices is sometimes challenging. Those engineers having time to perform the rule assessments is even more so. So the approach FutureCom uses is a multi-phased one. We gather the appropriate information in rule-based export files from your firewall. We do run an analysis tool to process the data received. We output the data. We review it, one of our security experts review it to identify areas of improvement with reference to industry best practices. The preliminary findings are vetted for context, we're examined to determine if remediation is necessary, and we're added to the final technical audit report. These are delivered to you discreetly and confidentially. So, if you're interested in learning more about the health check, or the firewall rule assessment offerings, contact your FutureCom account manager or email customercare@fcltd.net. And I'll be handing this over to our final segment of the day. Chris Boykin, our CTO, my boss, will be talking about our human security offering.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. I know it's been a long series here, but this is our last presentation. I promise to make it quick. So, do you ever wonder why with all the security technology today, companies continue to get compromised? Corporations spend tens of thousands of dollars or more to protect their data every year. But the one place that they tend to neglect to protect is the human side. That's what we're going to be talking about today. According to recent studies, phishing and pretexting represents 93% of social media-based breaches. On average, over 30% of phishing messages get opened by targeted users. And Microsoft reported an increase in phishing attacks by more than 250%. For state, education, and local government, 2 House bills have been passed requiring employees to undergo security awareness training. And many of these regulatory and compliance standards also require or suggest the same thing. So today, many companies have implemented some kind of security awareness program, whether it was voluntary or due to mandates and regulations. But are they truly effective? Are they really stopping the human security threat? Has it been able to eliminate malware or ransomware or prevent business email compromise? As the statistics I shared earlier would suggest, it's a resounding no. There are multiple reasons for this, but the most common is simply the lack of well-organized security program. That includes not only training, but testing through multiple forms and mediums. At FutureCom, we have developed and perfected our human security program with the goal of changing the behavior of the employees to reduce the security risk to the company. Our methodology is to test, teach, train, and repeat. We begin with baseline testing, in the form of a phish email sent out to all employees. We collect the metrics about who opened the email, who clicked the link, and who entered the login credentials. We then move on to our in-person seminars. We have a roundtable meeting with executive management to discuss the results of the baseline test. Then we have the town hall meetings with all the employees. And we begin the process of creating awareness, review the baseline test results, and introduce the next phase, the security awareness training. The training is given in short modules, about 5 to 10 minutes each, on a regular basis over the period of about a year. It's fun, interactive, and web-based, so it's accessible for everyone. There are a plethora of available training modules in a variety of different styles that test the concepts that they're teaching while in the module. There are even non-cybersecurity related modules that can be used to teach things like compliance rules and human resources topics. Best of all, the program is 100% customizable and tailored specifically to your business needs and your goals. Our method of test, train, teach, and repeat has been proven to work in every corporation using our program. As you can see here, with our own customer data, from the time that our initial baseline phish to a full year in the program, the phishing failure rate goes from nearly 50% down to under 5%. Oh, and did I mention this is a fully managed service? Your IT staff doesn't need to take on more responsibility for you to enjoy the benefits of improving your human security posture. Our program also includes quarterly program reviews, monthly reporting. The phish alert button can be added to your Outlook so that users can report on suspect emails, and it easily integrates with Active Directory. Lastly, we offer some optional services like live vishing and USB drops. So if you're interested and you would like to get some more information about our human security program, please reach out to your account manager or email customer care at fcltd.net. And with that, I am going to hand it back over to Katie so that we can go through the questions that have been coming in. If you have any more questions, please submit them now.
Thank you so much, Chris, and the rest of you guys, David, Justin, and Kyle, for your presentations and information. So I'm going to start here with, this is regarding wireless survey. So that kind of goes back to you, Justin. Is the wireless survey vendor agnostic? Does your method allow you to test any brand of APs I might have in production, including any APs I might not have documented?
That is a great question, and David or Chris, jump in if you feel I missed something here. But I want to say the answer is yes, but the answer is yes with a couple caveats, because I just want to be honest about how this works, right? So specifically, you mentioned having APs that are in production. So if it's an active survey and we're surveying the RF landscape, we are going to detect everything, whether it's on your network, whether it's on your neighbor's network, another company down the street network. If we can see it, we can see it and we can identify what it is, even if it's not documented, which I see that is your next point. So yes, absolutely, we can identify that and give you an understanding of what the RF environment or wireless environment is like, particularly in an active survey. So no problems there at all. Now on the predictive survey, this is where I'm going to throw the caveat in. In the tools that we have, and there's a general set of survey tools you can buy from different companies. They have a database of access points, generally speaking. They're updated all the time. And so I want to say 99, but it's probably 98% of the time the access points in the database. And so it's pretty easy to say, okay, we are going to buy, I won't pick a vendor, but vendor X's model Y access point, and we can use the tool to show what it would look like. But sometimes those aren't in there. That being said, we had an engineer who was looking at one of the latest and greatest enterprise grade AX access points that the manufacturer itself hadn't released a profile for. So what did he do? He took a day and built a profile for it because he knew he was going to need it for that site survey as well as those going forward. So those are the types of things that you can get from FutureCom that you wouldn't necessarily get from a manufacturer or from maybe somebody who doesn't have that experience. So great question. Appreciate it.
Thank you. That answers it very well, I believe. Now, this one is going to be about antivirus. So I already have an antivirus client in place. If I was going to migrate, would I be able to get assistance with the migration to FutureCom's managed protective services?
Yeah, so this is Kyle here. That's definitely something that we can assist with. So anybody that's coming over to our managed service, part of that process will be to fully review what you have in place today, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, and then we'll come up with a plan together on how to get all your policies migrated over to the new system and hopefully improve things in the process.
Wonderful, thank you. It's good to hear. We have, this goes back to our general consulting services section. Is general consulting offered as project-based or a block of hours?
Sure, I'll take that one. So yes, we can do the general consulting as either project-based if you have a very specific project you'd like assistance with, or if you wanted a block of hours that could be used in whatever manner you want, you can do that. We do those prepaid, and the more hours that you purchase, the better the rate that you get. So that's one way. That's another way to do it. And then lastly, we also we offer hours based on something we call a skills augmentation contract, which if you have questions on that, that's really that situation where Justin was talking about, where if you have lost somebody on your staff that maybe a skill set's gone now and you need to replace that skill set, but it's you don't have the need to necessarily hire a full-time employee, then we can help with that as well. So multiple ways to buy our services in the general consulting area.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, this one is, what cloud apps can be protected with managed cloud app security?
Sure, I'll take that one. So any of the ones that we had named before, which are really all of the Office suite. So the Office 365, and then everything included in that, which is SharePoint and OneDrive. And then as outside of that, the Google suite is included in what can be protected, as well as the corporate versions of Box and Dropbox.
Thank you, Chris. And just to piggyback off of that, we will, in the next couple of days, be putting this recording on our website. And I believe it might have stated in some of the slides a little bit more detail. So you are welcome to go replay that or review that, in addition to, of course, reaching out to your account manager. Then this one is about the site survey again. Does FutureCom perform a configuration review with the site survey?
Yeah, so we can. It's not part of the normal wireless site survey. If I assume that's what that question is referring to, is the wireless site survey. It's not part of the normal wireless site survey to do the configuration review, but we can do that. We have expertise in the how to configure the wireless networks properly and most efficiently. So yes, we can do that. If you're referring to, say, maybe a security assessment or something, that as well can be included in there. So I guess the short answer for that is yes.
All right, great to hear. And then I think we have one final question, unless any more come in the meantime. What human security platforms does FutureCom support for your managed services?
So we utilize a tool called KnowBe4. They provide the training modules and everything. So that is who we utilize. And
that, I believe, concludes all of the question portion. I am going to say great job to Aaron Trinacosta for knowing the answer to that. And it's a perfect segue. Whoever asked that question, it's a perfect segue because KnowBe4 is actually the speaker at our next session on September 10th, 2 weeks from today. And they are actually going to be talking about something that some of you that are even familiar with them might not be aware of. Their topic is discover the 5 biggest threats to your digital supply chain and how to reduce your risk. So it's a little bit different from the normal presentation that they typically give on their own webinars. So really good chance for you to come on and join ours and hear a little bit more in depth about some of the offerings they have. With that, I definitely want to thank again Chris, David, Justin, and Kyle for their time today, both in their presentations and in answering some of those questions. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We hope to see you 2 weeks from now on the KnowBe4 presentation. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay secure, stay home, and enjoy your evening, everybody.